Will music theory actually make you a better guitar player? Well, maybe not though. We'll talk about that in this video, plus hang on to the end of the video and I'll give you a really cool and super useful hack for figuring out the key of a song. Let's get into it. Hey there, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and this is your Tuesday Blues. And before we get into this topic, I've got a quick disclaimer for you, and it's that I did not learn music theory when I was first starting out. As a matter of fact, I was kind of allergic to it. I wanted to play loud, I wanted to play fast, and for some reason I got this thought in my head that if I studied all that nerdy music theory stuff, that it would somehow take the edge off of my music. And you know, if there's one thing that I could send myself back in time to tell baby John, at least about music, it would be this: music theory makes music make sense, or at least it does to me, and that's all based on my personal goals. So let's answer the question, will it make you a better guitar player? And I think that really depends on your goals. If all you want to do is learn a few songs and strum along to the songs that you really love to play, then no, you don't need to know any theory. You can make sense of things with theory, but you can absolutely memorize where to go on the fretboard and learn to replicate those sounds without learning any music theory. Learn a little bit of guitar tab or watch a ton of videos and you can get there. But if you want to go deeper, then there are definitely some really good reasons that you might want to study theory. And in this video, we're going to talk about 3 really practical reasons that having at least a basic understanding of music theory will really help you round out your guitar playing. Let's get into it. Music theory can help you speak the language of music. It can help you communicate with other musicians. Say you're hanging out with a bassist, you could probably follow along with the chord changes just by watching the bassist's fingers on the fretboard. But maybe not. What if the bass player is advanced, a little more advanced, and walking some arpeggios? You could get lost pretty quickly. And you know, what if instead of a bass player, you're hanging out with a harmonica player or a piano player? The fact is that other musicians aren't going to tell you where to put your finger on the fretboard. They're going to talk in musical terms about chords, about progressions, things like that. And it will really help you if you've got a solid foundation in music theory to know what they're talking about. Let's take this as an example. Say you're hanging out and somebody says, let's play a 12-bar blues, key of A, 1-4-5 progression. All right, so the 1-4-5, that's the first thing you need to figure out. And then we can plug it into a 12-bar blues. But first thing, we need to know, what are you even talking about, 1-4-5? Well, we're not going to get heavily into Roman numeral analysis right here, but that's what it's about. It's about giving a 1, a 4, and a 5 to chords in a key. 1 is going to be the key. We already said this is in the key of A, so let's play our 1 chord, A. And then if you just count up to 4, you go A, B, C, D is the 4 chord, and then E is your 5 chord. All right, so now you know the chords we're working with in this key. So you could play along with some rhythm. You just plug it into a 12-bar blues format. 4 bars on the 1 chord, 2 bars on the 4 chord, 2 more bars back on the 1 chord, and then we do 5 chord, 4 chord, followed by 2 bars on the 1 chord. And then another thing that you'll know is that this is blues. So let's make it sound bluesy by playing dominant 7th chords, all right? So we get that flat 7 in the chord. Here again, just peppering in some theory that it's really handy to know, but I want you to just walk with me here because this is a great example of where knowing just the basics can really get you far, all right? So let's just strum through what this 1-4-5 blues, 12-bar blues sounds like, all right? We're using the 1-4-5. We're going to start out 4 bars here. That's 2 bars. 4 and 5. That's my D7 and back for 2 bars. Next up, even a basic grasp of music theory can help you when you're composing your own material. All right, think about this. If you've got three chords that sound great together, you know they sound great together. We'll take the G, C, and D chords. It works. But what if you want to go somewhere else? You could stumble around the fretboard and try to find chords that work, and you're going to find some hits and you're going to find some misses. But if you know a little bit about basic chord theory, then you really can kind of narrow down your next choice of chord to really just about 3 usable chords. Now, there are definitely ways that we could complicate this, but let's keep it basic. We could choose between our A minor, B minor, and E minor. Now, these 3 chords will work great with a G, C, and D progression because I know this is in the key of G, and I know that my 2 chord, G, move up to A, 2 chord, should be minor, not major. That might sound a little bit out of place. Again, break the rules when you want to, but just for simplicity's sake, this minor is going to fit a little bit better in a lot of things that you're going to try to do. And then you could go to the 3 chord. Well, what should that be? Minor. Again, you can study some basic music theory and you'll know that that should be a minor chord. And then finally, you keep moving C, D, and then E with B minor as well. You could choose between one of those other 3 chords to produce a cool little progression to match your G, C, and D. Just as an example, throwing in that A minor to C, then back to D, okay? The point here is not learning that specific thing. It's really more of a mindset to share with you how theory has helped me conceptualize some things, and that really helps narrow the playing field when I'm trying to compose something and I'm looking for another chord. All right, I want to hear from you before we move on. When you first started learning guitar, did you pay any attention to music theory, or were you like me and you kind of shunned it and thought either I'll get to that later or I don't need to know that? I'm curious what your experience was and if you really dug in from the get-go. And if you're a new player, let us know if you're going to work on some music theory as you get started. All right, now let's get back to the lesson. Now, I believe there are a lot of different reasons that you'll want to consider learning some theory as it applies to the guitar and music in general. But the third and final thing that we're going to discuss here today is it will help you learn new material quicker. All right, this was sort of something that surprised me a little bit, but once I figured out, say, the chords in a key like we just talked about, all of a sudden it seemed as if no one was pulling any punches, that things were really kind of pulled from a framework. And then if someone made a creative choice to step out of the framework, because I knew the framework so well, it really stuck out and it made it a little bit easier to find. All right, so think about this. If you're trying to learn a new song and you know a little bit about what chords fit together, you've really narrowed your choices of trying to figure out what's happening in the music to just a few chords rather than an infinite possibility of chords. Or I suppose it's finite. I haven't done the math to figure out, but there are a lot of different chords you can come up with here. So this is one way to kind of help you narrow it down. And I told you at the beginning of the video that I'll share with you a little hack, and it's the 4-5 hack when it comes to figuring out the key of a song. All right, so let's strum through some chords here. I'll strum through a D chord, and then an E chord, and an A chord. All right. What key was that in? I played 3 chords, and really there's enough information right there to figure out what our key is, what our home base is, and our reference point for dissecting anything that we need to know about that little progression is, okay? And the hack that I want to give you is whenever you hear two major chords next to each other, and when I say next to each other, I mean up a step or down a step. Those two chords are going to be your 4 chord and your 5 chord most of the time, okay? This will get you through a lot of different situations and help you find the key of a lot of different tunes. So if you've got a 4 chord and a 5 chord, those are the only two major chords that are next to each other in a key, okay? So if I'm playing A, is that right next to E? Well, I don't mean next to it on the fretboard. Again, we got to think in musical terms here. So is A right next to E? The answer is no. But how about E and D? Is E right next to D? Not that way, but it is right here. So now E and D are our 4 and 5 chord. And of course, the lower is going to be 4. The higher is going to be 5. So D comes first in the alphabet, 4 chord, 5 chord. And now all you have to do is count backwards to figure out what your 1 chord is, what your key is. And in our case, it's A. We go up from A, 4, we get D, and then up again we get the 5 chord E. So you can kind of reverse engineer this just by listening for where two major chords sit next to each other. It's a whole lot easier to figure out when you're doing 12-bar blues. Your 4 and your 5 chord is going to precede the 4 chord in a move like that in any key. That was it headed down into E, but you'll hear that in G. So that was 5, 4, 1. Now this applies to other genres as well, not just blues. Think country music, rock, pop. Whenever you've got two major chords sitting next to each other, a step apart, 2 frets apart on the guitar, that is going to be your 4 chord and your 5 chord, and you can back into your 1 chord. It works most of the time unless you have some oddball out there, but let this be the go-to theory-based way to hack your way into the right key of a song. All right, so there's no confusion. I want to say it again. If you're happy strumming along with your favorite songs and memorizing things and maybe learning a few things with tab, and you're happy doing it and you're accomplishing your guitar goals, you do not need theory. It may or may not enhance your experience on the guitar. It depends on you and your goals and whether you enjoy learning it. For me, learning theory really helped make sense of a few key things, and it helped me accomplish my goals, and it's continuing to do so today. But if you really haven't taken a stab at theory and you want to, then let me suggest the first place to start, and that is learning the note names on the fretboard. It's a skill that you just must know. It really comes in handy. And I've put together a guide that you can download. There's a link in the description that will help walk you through my method over a few steps to help you learn the note names on the fretboard. So hit the link in the description, pick that up. Subscribe if you like this, give me a thumbs up, and come on back next Tuesday for another acoustic lesson. I hope to see you then. Until then, play on.